We're seeing this on college campuses in unbelievable numbers. We're, in fact, setting up a helpline for students that are being harassed, because Jewish students and some Christian students that are also supporting Israel are being harassed because of their statement in support of Israel, mostly by these Palestinian student organizations. I said yesterday in the broadcast, George Washington University did a magnificent job in a piece they put out about the real face of Hamas, and it's worth reading. But we're seeing this on college campus after college campus in huge numbers, and Cece, up and down the coast.
Absolutely.
I mean, and coast to coast, actually.
That's right, coast to coast. We are seeing it, and we see that these kids that are supporting the Palestinian, what they call their plight, they're very vocal, they're very bold, and they're very loud, and very organized, and it is intimidating.
It's been 20 years, probably or more, of in university indoctrination by people, pushing an anti-Israel, anti-Semitic messaging under the guise of anti-Zionism. I mean, that's really been the whole thing. We don't really mean anti-Semitism. We mean anti-Zionism. What has been very clear, and what I think has been a wake-up call, actually, to what is left of the true liberals.
Yeah.
This has been a wake-up call to them. That is why you see, actually, hundreds. If you see, there's a new letter to President Biden, that's put together by Hollywood with hundreds of celebrities, and it goes from your Dean Cain on the far right to people on the far left who have now come together and said, we have to condemn this. We have to be working towards more solutions. And what I think is that big wake-up call is seeing what's happening on the college campuses, because it's absurd, it's disgusting, and now it's not even like put under the anti-Zionism
and
conversation.
Interesting on that.
Horrible to begin with.
No, it is. Interesting on all that, of course, is the fact, and this is that these college campuses, the presidents of these universities were saying nothing. But worse than that, maybe, the president's spokesman, Karine Jean-Pierre, when asked about anti-Semitism, take a listen to the question, and listen to the answer.
Level of concern right now about the potential rise of anti-Semitism in light of everything that's going on in Israel.
So a couple of things. We have not seen any credible threats. I know there's been always questions about credible threats, and so just want to make sure that that's out there. But look, Muslim and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks, and certainly President Biden understands that many of our Muslim, Arab Americans and Palestinian American loved ones and neighbors are worried about the hate being directed at their communities.
Muslim, Arab Americans, Palestinians, that was the entire answer. Now, this shows you how absurd this is. So we've got a media issue to add to the legal issues that we're already dealing with. House Democrats have even started slamming the White House press secretary because of her non-answer on the anti-Semitism question. A friend of Jordan who's been on this broadcast, Congressman Jared Moskowitz, wrote, "What a weak answer, and why are you looking in the book? What's the approved answer?" The answer is simply yes, we are concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism. And then he goes on. So this is an issue, but we're also having this on college campuses in a big way. Jeff Balaban's joining us, who runs our office in Israel. He's in New York right now. But Jeff, let's talk about the situation with students. And by the way, if you're a student that's listening, we're going to start putting this on social media. We're going to get it out on all of our platforms. If you're a student that needs help because you're being harassed on your campus, we have ACLJ lawyers that are ready, able, and willing to do that. But Jeff, this is a real problem taking place right now, and it's not just in New York, and it's not just in California. It's all over.
These two things, Jay, are directly linked. The fact that this is the narrative by the White House spokesperson, the fact that this is the narrative from college campus leaders, from the faculty, from the administration, where there's total disregard, complete disregard for Jewish students, for people who support Israel, for people who happen to be Jewish, whether they support Israel or not. In fact, they're aggressively going against them. So obviously we aren't able to say publicly exactly who some of these students are, but we represent students right now at ACLJ who are being attacked by their schools, by their administrations, because they have expressed concerns about, for example, days of rage, days of resistance that groups have been calling for, which means literally calling for genocide, and have resulted across the country in violence, physical violence against Jewish students.
It's just a few kids, but they have the loudest voices. And they are totally willing to go in and disrupt these college campuses. And they're shouting, spewing their support for terrorists. Again, we hear it said over and over by so many people. These kids don't even know what they're saying. They don't even know what they're doing. They're openly supporting terrorists. And that is what they're doing. And they're intimidating the Jewish students.
One of the founders of the Democratic Socialists of America, Maurice Eiserman, left the DSA to protest the current DSA's leadership's politically, this is his words, and morally bankrupt response to the horrific Hamas October 7th anti-Jewish pogrom, that's what he called it, that took the lives of 1,400 people, mostly civilians, and the 200-plus hostages. He left the DSA over this. So there is starting to be, we're starting to see this. Logan said it earlier. You're starting to see all of a sudden the realization that the horrific nature of what's taking place here is something that civilized society has never experienced really since the Holocaust.
Well, that's true. But I want to bring it back to what you were talking about before, Jay, which is what's happening from the White House. Now we have the most prominent spokesperson for this administration, who we, Jay, at ACLJ, we warned about this. I spoke about this on the air. Jordan wrote about this, published about this. It's up on the ACLJ website. She herself comes from an organization to the White House. That organization directly was anti-Semitic, used this kind of language about Jews, not about right-wing Jews, not about settlers, whatever you want to call them, about the most centrist Jews, calling them Islamophobic, racist, just propagating all kinds of vicious anti-Semitism. What I'm concerned about now is this is not a mistake that she decided not to talk about Jews being hurt, is she's doing a ploy that many anti-Semites use, which is when you say anti-Semitism, they only apply that to Arabs. They say, well, Arabs are Semites. No, anti-Semitism, we understand, is a word that means one thing. It means Jew hatred. It was actually coined by a Jew hater to define what he meant. That's what it means. They're saying, well, because Arabs are Semites, we're going to say that now they're the ones we have to worry about. So literally they're taking the Jews suffering, the attacks on Jews, and going to the ones doing it and saying we have to protect them. So from the White House to the campus leadership, Jews are in danger because of those messages.
Does the president view anti-Israel protests and sentiment on college campuses as anti-Semitism?
So look, I'm not going to get into what's happening across the country and at different universities, not going to get into the specifics. As the Admiral said, the First Amendment right? That's what something in peaceful protest is really part of our democracy, being able for folks to be able to express their feelings. I'm not going to get into any specifics on that.
You notice the double standard here, right? Which is to say, free speech is all of a sudden okay when it's literally leading to Jews being beaten up on campus, when they're calling for genocide. That's okay. But God forbid you say something that offends somebody on the left, and then you literally will throw you off of campuses. You're right, Jay. The simple answer to this should have been yes. This is such an important marker. This should be a moment where there's a complete public outcry for her to be thrown out of this job. This is insane. And we need to absolutely, Biden himself, he's been expressing support. I would like to see it stronger, you know that. But this is an unacceptable, it should be unacceptable to any rational American.
Yeah, sadly, I think it's actually pretty commonplace. It's been pretty commonplace. I think the idea of it being sort of isolated to universities is a lot of these people came out of universities in the last 20 years. This is where it may have happened. It's happened there, and it's happened, honestly, in the evangelical church the last few years, where the support of Israel has waned and the propaganda has kind of seeped its way in. We've seen it on a double front, and frankly, it's just sad to see. But I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. It actually is a lot of people who are the majority of these students on campus who are, yes, they may be misinformed, but they believe that Israel bad, anyone else good.
Yeah, including Hamas.
Oh, yeah. So don't get it some other way that they're twisted to not think they're supporting terrorism. I know they think they support terrorism. They just believe these terrorists are the freedom fighters.